So any researcher worth his salt has been keeping an eye on the spinning up of the military-industrial complex in various hotspots around the globe. Once the changing of the guard happened, it was patently obvious that different national actors were going to test the Biden administration. Now, they test the incoming administration every time. I don't really see the point in testing Biden, though, because it's going to be the exact same reaction you would have gotten in 2008 from an Obama, or from a Clinton for that matter, or a Bush. But they did. So all at once, we started hearing of rumblings from the Korean Peninsula. China was pushing in on Taiwan. Russia was building up on Ukraine's border, and NATO was building up in response. I mean, the Russia-Ukraine situation looked pretty perilous for a moment. Syria popped back up. Biden had to extend the Afghan troop withdrawal, and when he did that, the Al-Qaeda announced that they were going to make life living hell for the soldiers there. From the time in May where Trump had them leaving to the time in September that Biden had to extend it, they said they're going to make that time a living hell in Afghanistan for the soldiers. So great. All of this geopolitical military stuff is going on, and a lot of people were pretty up in arms about it, thinking there's a possibility that Biden could be leading us into another full-scale war. I see it a little bit differently. While I do see a spinning back up of the national security apparatus, and I see the threat of the other being pushed a lot harder, like we all assumed it would be, there's an interesting problem that they have with war now, and that is the state actors in every country have an interest in not going to war with each other. So when we're talking about a war with China and America, or with Russia and the United States, almost 99.9% chance it's going to be a proxy war, right? These two superpowers fighting through smaller local tribal disputes, right? The reason being is because they don't want one state actor fighting another state actor in a war. It doesn't serve them any purpose. So what they need is, they need a non-state actor to go after, right? That's what Al-Qaeda is. That's what the Taliban is. That's what ISIS was, or ISIL, whatever you want to call it, the caliphate. All of these, they were others to be feared and that needed to be attacked without actually being another government that's in on it with our government. And so when I saw all this stuff popping off all around the world, I wasn't nearly as concerned as everybody else, because I'm not looking to be concerned until we see a pretty solid non-state actor that is a boogeyman and is being offered up as somebody that must be taken care of. Unfortunately, I think I've found that. And the rumblings are early, but they are substantial, and it checks off all the boxes that I've been looking at. So what are the boxes? Well, we're in Africa. So AFRICOM is one of the military's largest areas of operations. We have been running particularly special forces operations out of the continent for a very long time, especially since post 9/11 world. But if you'll remember, we've been primed with this terrorist organization is few years ago, and where Boko Haram captured a bunch of females in Africa and were holding them as slaves, and the United States government was involved in trying to get them released, trying to get them back. The American population has been primed with Boko Haram. So they know already, this is a bad guy, this is another, it's in Africa. And over the past years, Boko Haram, along with other Islamist factions inside of Africa, have been fighting the governments of the various countries for quite some time. And Boko Haram was generally considered to have been centered in Nigeria. The large portion of what we're talking about is in the West Africa. Boko Haram seems to be operating centrally out of Nigeria, and that's the Nigeria and Boko Haram have been really duking it out recently. They've been doing a lot of fighting. But recently, some things have changed in the way that Boko Haram is being represented in the media. And also, it seems as if Boko Haram is moving down south to the Republic of Niger. Now, all of this is extremely interesting when you start to look at the different military bases that the United States has on the continent of Africa with AFRICOM. The Republic of Niger has more military bases on it than any other one country in Africa that is officially acknowledged. So the fact that Boko Haram is moving out of Nigeria and into Niger is extremely newsworthy, and the fact that the way that this battle is going down, it's brewing. I can tell you it's brewing, and I want to just show you a couple of reasons why I say that. This article is on April 26, 2021, how Boko Haram attacked our Mainok camp. This is written by the Nigerian army. So listen to how this attack went out. And understand, Boko Haram is a terrorist organization. They're your run-of-the-mill terrorist organization. They've never really done anything newsworthy except for capturing those young women many years ago. But now, in this fight against Nigeria and the Republic of Niger, all of a sudden Boko Haram has changed tactics and they've become very familiar sounding. The terrorists who came around noon disguised themselves in a military convoy, went straight to the formation's armory, and attacked the personnel. Amongst the casualties recorded was the commander of the battalion, a lieutenant colonel. The terror groups disguised in military convoy and gained access to the 156 TF battalion position in Mainok, and headed straight to the arms store and started inflicting heavy firepower on the troops and dislodged them. The source said many other soldiers fled into the bush during the attack. The terrorists also set ablaze a Nigerian army tanker and some buildings in the military base. But according to the statement by the army, the terrorists were held by the troops until reinforcements arrived. And this is how the attack sounds. Sunday, 25th of April 2021, troops of Operation Lafayette Dole deployed in Mainok came under multi-directional attacks by Boko Haram ISWAP terrorists mounted on unconfirmed number of gun trucks, as well as foot soldiers with possible intent of establishing a phantom caliphate in the town. The terrorists were held by gallant troops of the 156 Task Force Battalion until the arrival of reinforcement teams from 7 Division Special Army Super Camp Gamdu and Army Super Camp 4 Beshenik. During the firefight, which lasted several hours, the gallant troops tactically lured a number of the terrorists into a killing zone within their camp where the Air Task Force of Operation Lafayette Dole scrambled alpha jets and helicopter gunboats which took turns in decimating the already trapped terrorists. In the aftermath of the encounter, scores of Boko Haram terrorists were neutralized with their body part littering the area and a number of their gun trucks destroyed. Regrettably, 1 gallant officer and 6 soldiers paid the supreme sacrifice while 5 other soldiers sustained various degrees of injuries. They sound exactly like ISIS whenever the military is reporting on the tactics and the way that these terrorists were behaving. And you'll have to forgive the flamboyant writing style that you're reading from. This is very typical of news agencies on the continent of Africa. The gallant officers, they're just gallant, okay? They were fighting a gallant battle, and that's what they are. So Nigeria is fighting Boko Haram for years and years now, since 2009, and Boko Haram has been saying that they're trying to establish a caliphate in the middle of Nigeria or the Republic of Niger. It stands to reason that at some point the United States media is going to put its attention on this, because we let a caliphate get established in Syria and northern Iraq, and that ended up being a huge mistake. And so the argument will almost immediately be that we cannot allow this caliphate to be established to begin with. And the American public has already been primed with this. We know who Boko Haram is. We know what the caliphate is. We know that there's issues, that we don't want that to happen. They're very bad people. It's a very scary boogeyman. And most importantly, this is a non-state actor that the United States government can go after in perpetuity, just like Al-Qaeda. But we heard in the pro-government news articles about how that gunfight went down, although there is multiple reports about it, and it's not quite as positive as they were saying. The Air Force mistook a gun truck carrying regular troops for terrorists, and at least 20 soldiers are feared killed in an aerial attack meant to neutralize Boko Haram, or the Islamic State West African Province. ISWAP. That's what listen for ISWAP, or ISWAP, the Islamic State West African Province, ISWAP, that overran the troops' base in Mainok on Sunday. So this is going to be the name, you guys. Keep your ear to the ground for ISWAP. So here we get a little bit more information on the gun trucks that they kind of moved into the base with. And listen here. The Nation reports the terrorists said to have invaded Mainok in a convoy of 4 MRAPs, a Scorpion armored personnel carrier, and several gun trucks had disguised as friendly forces on Sunday night before dislodging troops of the 156 Battalion and setting their camp ablaze. So understand that Boko Haram has the creme de la creme of military personnel carriers and transport vehicles. So now we're starting to sound an awful lot like ISIS, right? So now we want to know, well, wait a minute, where did Boko Haram get MRAPs? Is it, I feel like the tiny kid in the back of the class. I have my hand up. I'm like, are we going to talk about, like, who's giving Boko Haram MRAPs? Why? What's really good, AFRICOM? I mean, what's going on? It's not just the MRAPs that is scary. It's the tactics that they're describing of them dressing up like friendly forces and using that to get all the way to the armory where they targeted the equipment and the commanders. See, it's the tactics that stink, like they've been educated by somebody who knows about guerrilla warfare. And I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. This is a true escalation in Boko Haram's abilities to inflict damage, and it's not good. So we have a caliphate attempting to be built in West Africa. The name of the West Africa Islamic force that wants to do it is the ISWAP, or the Islamic State West African Province, the ISWAP, okay? And so we have our non-state actor, our boogeyman. The American public is primed on Boko Haram. We know who that is and that they're the bad guy. And now so we read the story about this attack that went down in Nigeria. Now Nigeria is trying to act like they've got this all under control. And we're going to go to a press conference where there's like, I can't remember what was the guy's name, Baghdad Bobby or something, where the initial invasion was happening and the Iraq governmental forces were collapsing all around. But then there was the one guy on TV saying that they were going to destroy the American forces and that Saddam would, be successful.
Shock and awe. Shock and awe. It seems that both are on them. They are suffering from shock and awe. Okay.
It's a lot like that guy, except obviously he's doing it for Nigeria. But the hilarity, this isn't a funny topic, but in the press conference, the press is just not buying what he's saying, and their faces, to me, are hilarious. I know I shouldn't be laughing at a time like this, in a topic like this. I have a dark sense of humor, so there's that. But the reporter's faces, he's like talking about how, okay, I'm just going to show you, but let's go. Okay, so let's go over, this is how the Nigerian government is saying they're handling Boko Haram. And it sounds very much like it's all under control, but then I'm going to play you the governor of the Republic of Niger. But first, let's listen to this press conference. Okay, so we got the spokesperson for the president of Nigeria talking about their attempts to contain the Boko Haram forces that are attempting to establish a caliphate in their country of Nigeria.
Encourage on the issue of security, which worries everyone, and is a matter that the government is not taking lightly. When we came in, it's documented 14 local council areas were under Boko Haram, and they had declared their own Islamic caliphate, with a flag and system of administration of their own, system of taxation. And this administration has smashed that up. Boko Haram.
So they came and they established their own system of taxation, their own currency, their own government. This is what it's like whenever they come and establish a caliphate.
It's not in control of any territory that they can call on.
Do you think he believes what that man's saying?
Hit and run, yes, they have resorted to mercenary tactics, guerrilla kind of warfare. But even as it is now, please watch out for what is happening with the changes that the president effected in the command structure of the military. So much action is going on. As you are aware, so one newspaper yesterday scooped the story about the ongoing efforts to cut funding to Boko Haram, and used by bureaus de change and all of that. it is still work in progress. A lot of discoveries are being made. We are cutting funding to Boko Haram. We are cutting weapons supply. Government is successfully cutting, supplies to Boko Haram of all manner of things. This is why today, as we speak, currently, you see what is happening now. Boko Haram is no longer fighting. It's today not fighting for. It's not fighting for Islamic Caliphate anymore. They are fighting for food and the weapons which they want to replenish, and for money because they are turned into armed robbers. The attack they carried out a few 3-4 days ago and the massacre. They told people, "Don't bother. We are not here for you. We're here to collect food and drugs."
Does he look like he's believing what this guy says? It seems like everybody in this room is looking around like, man, this guy is full of BS.
Food and drugs. And that's why they raided UN and other facilities and they were just taking these things away. Well, I tell you this, the military is getting ready because not only are they going to stop them from coming to the towns, they are going to stop them dead on their tracks in the forests.
So the spokesperson for Nigeria is saying that the Boko Haram forces have gone from fighting for a caliphate to fighting for food scraps. And just honestly, most of the press in that room is not buying it. But they are very much overwhelmingly in support of the destruction of Boko Haram.
As I end this conversation, is to ask, especially this large media presence here, I think that a lot of our media people should have a rethink of how they report Boko Haram. A lot of people, you ask them, they say they want to do balanced story. I don't know any country in which a terrorist and a legitimate democratically government are placed on an even keel. A terrorist and a bandit cannot be equated with a legitimate government. And the enormous publicity, Mrs. Thatcher said this so many years ago, publicity is oxygen to terrorists.
Publicity is oxygen to terrorists. I really actually like that a lot because he's absolutely correct. The more that people cover him, the more inspired they are, the more terrorists that they inspire. And it's really a giant creation of the media, right? If the horrible things that terrorists did never escaped more than a couple of villages over from the village that they attacked, then it would be very hard to get an entire continent whipped up in fear. But with the media taking that carrion call and spreading it throughout the entire world, they are actually able to cause an entire planet to become terrified of 1,000 Islamist militants in the center of West Africa. And 20 years ago that would have sounded crazy to me, but now I'm looking at this and I'm seeing that it literally checks off all the boxes for US military intervention. It is the next place that the military industrial complex can go because they're leaving Afghanistan and Iraq. It is got a non-state actor that they can bring the full force of the United States government down on. This non-state actor is operating freely inside of a third world country that doesn't have too strong of a local government that will be able to resist the American government. And even more importantly, the government is willing and asking for help fighting these people. You have Boko Haram, who is a primed enemy in the American conscience, and you have them trying to establish a caliphate, which is a primed situation that the American public is used to dealing with. Unfortunately, in my mind, I could see that we would engage in military operations over this, and nobody in America would even blink an eye. It would get bipartisan support in the House and the Senate, and Biden is not going to fight it, and it will be the new war. Everybody was looking for where's the new war going to be, and it's not going to be against the state, guys, but this is a good, solid option. It's nothing's definite in this world, but this is an option that we have got to keep our eye on here. It's very concerning. And now that you've listened to the spokesperson for the Nigerian president try to lay sugar all over the situation, I want you to hear the governor of the Republic of Niger after he had just got done running from the village that Boko Haram was attacking in his country. So you let me know if you think the governor of Niger thinks that things are as squared away as the press secretary for Nigeria.
The situation is critical and it's terrible. Last night, we had over 3,000 people here from communities that have been displaced by bandits and Boko Haram elements around Munya and Shiro local governments. However, some of them have started going back to their various homes, and there are some other communities that we think are safe, they can go back. But the vast majority of them will have to remain here because their towns have been taken over by bandits and Boko Haram elements. Their wives have been seized from them. Their wives have been forcefully attached to Boko Haram members elements. In fact, I just heard they've already placed their flag in Kauri, so which means they've taken over the territory. And this is what I've been engaging the federal government with. And unfortunately, it has now gotten to this stage that if care is not taken, nobody, not even Abuja, is safe. We have been saying this for long. We've been saying this, and all efforts have been in vain. I hope with the outcome of these banditry activities and terrorist activities, I hope the time has come now to see reasons for a very coordinated military action to take place so that we displace. The Boko Haram elements are trying to use these areas as their home, just like they did in Sambisa. Well, Sambisa is hundreds of kilometers away from Abuja, but Kaure is less than 2 hours drive to Abuja, so nobody is safe anymore. Not even Abuja is safe. So this is the time to act. But everybody, all hands must be on deck. All hands must be on deck. It's not for Niger State alone, no. It's for everybody to act. We have made all the efforts we need to do, and we have done it. We have tried our best. I am confirming that we have Boko Haram elements in Niger State around Kauri. They've taken over the territory. They've installed their flag. I'm confirming that now. They've taken over the wives of people by force.
So you can hear in his voice that he's asking for help. And he's saying it needs to be all hands on deck. It needs to be a coordinated military action. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, what kind of help can the American military do to help this guy when it's in Africa? I mean, we shouldn't have a large presence in Africa, right? Well, we do. AFRICOM is large. And it's already been a giant area of operations. But this is really heating up significantly. And it's something that we all need to keep an eye on. Again, all of this is on 26 April. You have the attack that happened in Nigeria, which was huge, brazen. Boko Haram has MRAPs now, and they're using military tactics just like ISIS and ISIL. And they're attempting to establish a caliphate. They're planting their flag, they're stealing people's wives, and we have the governor of the Republic of Niger calling out for help, right? And guys, they say we have a light footprint in Africa. That is just not the case. We have a network of military bases that are well established and capable of a lot all throughout Africa. People really underestimate the abilities of AFRICOM because of what happened in Libya, but they don't really realize that they did exactly what they were told to do in the Libya situation. You know, you think that there weren't assets that were capable of being moved into positions that would have helped those guys that day in Benghazi, but that's just not the case. There were plenty of options. There's often just options weren't taken. So if you look, these are the enduring footprint bases in Africa. These are the ones that stay permanently, and these are the ones that supposedly will leave. And you can see the number of bases up here in Niger. Violent extremism and insecurity on the continent has increased exponentially during the very years that the U.S. has been building up its network of bases, providing billions of dollars in security assistance to local partners, conducting persistent counterterrorism operations that include commando raids, combat by U.S. Special Operations Forces in at least 13 African countries between 2013 and 2017, and a record number of U.S. airstrikes in Somalia, just over one attack per week in 2019. There are now roughly 25 active militant Islamist groups operating in Africa, up from just 5 in 2010, a jump of 400%. So, once again, in another area of the world, the U.S. military shows up, and all of a sudden, the local resistance fighters, the local Islamist militants, all of a sudden have MRAPs and tons of money. And it just happens to coincide with the time period that the United States government is building up its military bases in those countries in Africa. Now, what on earth would would the United States have to be gained by doing that? Well, China's taken a different approach at conquering Africa, and they've provided loans to these countries and basically own them through infrastructure contracts. And so I have a feeling this is going to be the counter to that. How disgusting that our government is willing to fund terrorist cells in order to bring military maneuvering into an area where they want geopolitical control. And finally, as addressed in this Vice article entitled "Is War Brewing in Niger?", they established that Niger is one of the largest uranium mining countries in the world, and having a natural resource there that foreign entities would want to control is really the final puzzle piece to slide in here so that we can see there is a real opportunity for a proxy war in Niger. According to the Defense Department's Africa Center for Strategic Studies, militant Islamist activity also hit record levels in 2019. There were 3,471 reported violent events linked to these groups last year, a 1,105% increase since 2009. And then notice here, remember, we're having all of this drama between Boko Haram and the Republic of Niger. And right here we have, of the 6,000 or more U.S. personnel deployed in Africa, about 1,200, according to Manley, are in West Africa, with a significant percentage in Niger, which has become the key American hub on that side of the continent. So, so here we go. So now the key American hub to the United States military presence in South Africa or in West Africa is the Republic of Niger. And it just so happens that the Republic of Niger is currently being taken over by Boko Haram forces that have MRAPs and military uniforms and brand new tactics. Around 500 special operations forces are reportedly deployed on the other side of the continent in Somalia, the site of Americans' most intense and longest-running undeclared war in Africa. I think that that's about to be challenged. Another special forces detachment has been engaged in train, advise, and assist activities with a local counterterrorism force in Arlit, Niger. Well, interesting. They've been engaging in train, advise, and assist activities with local counterterrorism forces. Okay. Somebody's doing that with the terrorist forces. So, I mean, if you guys are doing it with the counterterrorism forces, that's cool or whatever. But the terrorist forces, somebody is training and advising and engaging with them. I'm not trying to make any accusations, but somebody is. Maybe we should look into that. The presence of U.S. commandos at Diffa and Arlit first came to widespread notice in the wake of the October 2017 ambush by Islamic State militants in Tongo, Niger that killed 4 U.S. soldiers, which you guys probably don't remember because they were only reporting on Donald Trump at the time. The attack in Kenya came at a time when Defense Secretary Mark Esper was already considering proposals for a major drawdown of U.S. forces on the other side of the continent, in West Africa. Oh, so here we go. Just add another one to the boxes to check off. Now it is the Pentagon is being threatened with a drawdown. We're going to lower your forces in an area, and of course, all of a sudden now we have Boko Haram taking over that area. How bloody convenient. Including the possible abandonment of a recently built $110 million drone base in Agadez, Niger. What? According to Manley, the Pentagon's so-called blank slate review process is still ongoing, and there has been no change to U.S. force posture in Africa as of yet. I haven't made any decisions yet on West Africa or East Africa, Esper said recently, while at the same time calling on European nations to step up in Africa. Talk of scaling back U.S. posture and presence in Africa has prompted fierce pushback in Congress. Well, of course it has. If there's one thing that Congress agrees on, it's war, right? In recent years, the U.S. military has carried out no fewer than 36 named operations and activities in Africa, including at least 8 127 ECHO programs, which are named for the budgetary authority that allows U.S. Special Operations Forces to use host nation military units as proxies in missions aimed at violent extremist organizations, or VEOs, run by JSOC, the secretive organization that controls the Navy's SEAL Team 6 and Army's Delta Force, or by Theater Special Operations Forces. These 8 180 to 120 person units operating with the assistance of U.S. commandos are primarily engaged in counterterrorism operations, especially ones aimed at high-value targets. Which is interesting because the attack by Boko Haram I was reading to you, they took over the base using MRAPs and military uniforms. They went straight for the armory, which would be considered a high-value target, and they killed the battalion commander, who is also a high-value target. Even discounting the 2 counter-VEO bases in Libya that appear to have been closed since the map was created by AFRICOM, this leaves 1 each in Kenya, Mali, and Tanzania, as well as 5 in Somalia, 4 in Niger, and 2 in Cameroon. Facing a potential drawdown of forces, AFRICOM has been making the case that its bases and the missions run from them are integral to U.S. interests. Strategic access to Africa, its airspace, and its surrounding waters is vital to U.S. national security. So here we go. They're threatening the drawdown, and now all of a sudden we have a highly trained, highly motivated, highly funded terrorist organization that wants to declare a caliphate. Just right when AFRICOM's being threatened with a drawdown. And like always, guys, I'll have all of my articles and all of my research. They will be in the comment below the pinned comment. So click on the pinned comment, look at the replies. The first one will be all of these sources. So this is what's really, I hope I'm starting to paint the picture for you guys now. We have AFRICOM being threatened with a drawdown. Funding's being threatened to be pulled away from the Pentagon. We have Boko Haram, who's trying to establish a caliphate, who is receiving training and funding from unknown areas right now and is exponentially stepping up its abilities and its attacks and its tactics. We have the local governments of Nigeria and Niger are open to help from the U.S. It's not looking good, guys. It's really not. And you guys, if the U.S. is building a drone base in Niger that will cost more than $280 million by 2024, they're not planning on leaving. The Pentagon disclosed that in addition to the base's $100 million construction cost of Agadez, more than $30 million a year will be spent to operate it. And there it is, a flat dirt runway that cost $300 million. So this base is now the largest base building effort ever undertaken by troops in the history of the U.S. Air Force, according to Richard Kummerook, a spokesperson for the U.S. Air Force in Europe and Air Forces Africa. It's probably one of the most remote U.S. military bases ever built, said Dan Gettinger, co-founder and co-director of the Center for the Study of the Drone at Bard College and the author of a guide to identifying drone bases from satellite imagery. Most drone bases on the African continent are appendages to larger airports or airfields, but not Agadez. The existing infrastructure is not there, so the scale of the project is huge. When the National Defense Authorization Act in 2016 was introduced, embedded in it was a $50 million request for the construction of an airfield and base camp in Agadez, Niger, to support operations in West Africa. The Intercept blew the story up. They reported on how much it was going to truly cost, over $100 million. This is just a small example of the Pentagon's mismanagement of money. That's not really the point of me looking at this article. My point is that when the U.S. military starts building this kind of infrastructure, even though they said that they have a permanent footprint base and a temporary footprint base in the country, you can believe that they're planning on being there forever. So you have all this money that the Pentagon's dumped into these bases in Niger. Then you have AFRICOM being threatened with a drawdown. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's obvious that all of a sudden there will be a justification for the money that they dumped into the area and for the continued presence and perhaps buildup of military presence in that area. And that justification is called Boko Haram. And Boko Haram has just recently been injected with finance, training, methodology, media coverage, and they're trying to establish a caliphate. This is the kind of thing that I am looking out for if I'm looking for, is there another war happening? I'm not looking at North Korea or China or honestly, any state actors. It's just not in their interest to fight with each other. But when I start seeing all of these various variables come together, this is not looking good, guys. I hope it's nothing, but we will keep an eye on it on this channel as we move forward. So, eyes on Africa. All right, you guys. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you would like to support the channel, all the ways to do so are in the pinned comment below. Love you guys. Talk to you next time. Peace.